many fans you are in the chat.
Hello and welcome back, disc golf enthusiasts from around the world. We are bringing you coverage of the 2023 Krokhol Open, third stop of the PDGA Euro Tour, and this is Round 1 Back 9 FPO feature card coverage brought to you by MDG Media. I'm Connor Wood, and with me, Elias Luukkonen.
Thank you, Connor. Nice to be here once again as we look at the scores throughout 9 holes. Silva Saarinen and Lykke Lorentzen from our card leading the field with -2. Many players just behind them, and pretty much everybody on the card still in position to hopefully reach for that hot round, or at least for the lead card spot. As we move to hole 10, 126 meters. Quite severely downhill, playing maybe closer to 110 or 105. OB on the left and right side of the basket, kind of wrapping around the basket here. The OB is way inside the circle on this hole, and the hill from left to right is really what makes this hole, and I suspect many of these players would go with something pretty straight and hopefully go low here.
Another elevated tee, going to be really testing all of the angles of our players' releases as Rachel pipes one straight down the middle. Incredible connection with the ground to slow it down. She really had a fantastic height control and hyzer control as she parks it here on hole 10.
Lykke unfortunately hitting some of the early trees on this hole, and looks like she has actually gone OB, which is common as the OB is very tight on this hole, both on the left and the right side. Anniken playing a forehand out towards the left, also challenging the OB, and unfortunately she's also OB there, really showing off that how tight that OB is on this hole.
And you saw a really small island of mulch around the base of the basket, not as big or forgiving of a green as some of the others we've seen, as Sofie pushes that right side and hyzers back in beautifully. She is at about 5 meters for her birdie putt.
Yeah, that was a great shot. Really showing off that angle and height control, able to keep the disc low and going forward. Lykke also with a very low approach there. Good touch, and she's just outside the bullseye there, hopefully tapping in that bogey.
Anniken also low, getting a fortunate skip there to give her extra distance as that came out quite early. She'll still be left with a long look to the basket, and OB tucked just behind it, only 5 or so meters. Although sloping softly uphill, she can give this a bid confidently, and she does. An incredible bogey save as she connects with that putt here on hole 10.
Yeah,
Anniken Steen.
That's an incredible putt. Certainly not the putt you want to make for bogey, but if you have to, you better make it. That's a great one. As we say, Sofie getting that birdie on the first hole of the back 9. Really great start here for the back 9 for her. Lykke also with the bogey there. That's pretty much the ideal
Rachel
score.
finally getting to her tee shot. Really solid, even closer than some of those approaches. 2 great birdies on hole 10.
Yeah, that's always a great feeling when you can just wait out for the whole card to finish before tapping in your birdie. As we move on to hole 11, 87 meters. Another pretty straight hole that you really want to keep your disc from turning over to the right, but also from fading out to the left, although fading out to the left is a way better option than turning it over to the right. Right side trees are very thick. There's a lot of these small birch trees on the right side, so if you want to make the mistake, you want to hyzer out to the left. And another very slopes green on the right side of the basket. If you miss from left of the basket and go right of the basket, you're certainly going down the hill. As we saw, actually Rachel going with a pretty decent low shot there, but getting a good skip almost in the circle there, just in circle 2.
Yeah, a nice hyzer flip up to flat for Rachel. We see a very similar shape from Sofie, but getting a higher connection on the hill. She slides that one right up into bullseye. Really smooth shot. We see Lykke now. Also opting for the hyzer release, although this one not turning over quite as much. She'll fade out early. Fortunate to filter through. Will have hopefully an unobstructed look, although may be forced to a slight straddle. Although she does seem to prefer that straddle putt the majority of the time anyway. And Anniken here, opting for the backhand that may fade towards the danger, but really hanging it out with a reliable width and a good shot, getting a little bit of that backboard to keep her there. Another slightly scary putt for her. Make sure to check out the front nine if you haven't already.
Yeah,
Rachel's here.
for sure. And Rachel has a great angle to putt since there is no slope behind the basket from that angle. Unlike both Anniken and Lykke. As you can see, Lykke just missing chain high with a soft bid and still rolling down the hill. Really showing how close that slope is behind the basket.
Anniken, she gave it the height, had the confidence. It was a good line. She'll find Van. Rachel finds chains, securing her par. Another putt that is putting away, not in line with that OB, so all right for her. And Lykke coming back, catching out on the left side. Chains will be left with some short looks now. Great birdie there from Sofie.
Yeah, certainly.
Really smooth tee shot.
This is I would say this is one of the holes on the course that you would like to at least have a look for the birdie. It's quite straightforward and not too far for these players. As we only see one birdie here, 2 pars and the bogey for Lykke after that nasty roll away after the putts. Moving on to hole 12, one of the more beautiful holes you're ever going to play. First shot, you're going downhill on this beautiful wide fairway that's getting tighter and tighter once you approach this OB pond. OB on the right side at the end of this first part of the fairway, getting really tight here near the pond. If you have a really good drive, you want your second shot to go over this OB pond and hopefully fade slightly left to the fairway from where you have a short approach to this green that is, as expected, slightly sloping both right side and long off the basket. So it's really a lot about how far can you throw with your drive. If you get a big drive, you have most likely an easy or at least a manageable chance for the birdie, as looks like Sofie has done. That's a very, very good shot and very good distance there.
Right up to the cameraman. Center fairway. We see Rachel getting a little bit less turn than Sofie opted for, playing the hyzer into the hillside. She'll finish more towards the left of the fairway, opening up a hyzer for her next shot if she chooses to go over. We'll see Anniken now. A really picturesque and scenic hole, fairway, green. You can see all the way there as Anniken turns hers over a little bit too much for a full flight, but still enough distance to consider getting aggressive on the second shot.
Yeah, I believe both Rachel and Anniken are in positions where they probably are going to lay up before the pond. As Lykke actually turns her driver over to the right side woods, and that's really not an ideal spot to be after the first. It's quite thick, the woods on the right side.
And you see there how small the gaps are, just needing to go out with the forehand roller. And this does not turn over to the right side at all. In fact, I think cutting backwards in distance, although opening it up. Yeah, I was going to say, likely still just needing to lay up here prior to the pond, and she's done just that, but you saw that that's effectively 2 penalty strokes for going right side OB.
Yeah, exactly. And although I believe Lykke did stay safe off the drive, but might as well be OB since the woods on the right are so thick. As we see Rachel going for that big shot over the pond, fading left, and that's just a fine spot. Even though it did fade left, there's a lot of room to fade left if you get that distance over the pond. Sofie with the second shot going over the pond, which is just a perfect way to play this hole, and once again fading left, actually a little bit too far left even, going into the woods, but hopefully having a lean out shot from there to the basket.
We see Anniken now bombing this one over the pond as well. Slight drop from the disc from the wind, but she slides right up there. That's a smooth shot to get rid of that middle fairway danger. And Lykke now.
Yes.
A nice use of the understability, getting it nose up on hyzer release. A beautiful full flight right up there into the green. Nice composure after a tough start to the hole.
Yeah, that was a very good shot, really shaping the whole entire fairway there. As we see Sofie actually having to go with the forehand roller. Really good angle there. Unfortunately, looks like the disc is very overstable, really holding that 90-degree angle compared to the ground, and goes even a little bit long there. Probably circle 2 almost.
Especially picking up speed on the downhill, rollers like normal discs, air shots tend to flip over a little bit more. As we see Anniken there giving it what looks like a bit. I'm sure she wanted a bit less height on that and to keep it close given her distance. And we see exactly that, a slight correction to Rachel's upshot right in the bullseye.
Yeah, it's certainly a fast green with all the wood chips and the dead grass. As we see, wow. Huge par save from Lykke. That's an incredible par save, considering that even after 3 shots, she was still on the short side of the pond. That was huge.
And Sofie there finding some chains, but not enough to stick it. We see Anniken punished slightly with that extra stroke from fading out on her approach shot. As we'll see a par from Sofie. And yeah, incredible par save from Lykke, really solid stuff. Rachel with the tap-in birdie played the hole exactly as you want. And for Anniken, the tap-in bogey. We see a mixed bag here for our feature card.
Yeah, as is expected on that hole. It's a great hole and also a great scoring separation hole, as there's a lot of trouble to be found. Moving on to hole 13, another one of these shorter, precise holes that you have on this course. Only 86 meters, playing through not the tightest gap in the world, but certainly a gap that you have to hit well in order to get through it. Just you want to fly straight towards the basket, hopefully land just before, since there's this good slope upwards before the basket that is a really good backstop for the discs coming in towards the basket. So you can really hit your either mid-range, fairway driver, or even a fast driver with some good speed. If you keep it low, slightly under the basket, you can really hit the hillside and trust that it's going to stop the disc from moving too far, as we saw Rachel going with something a little bit more high than she would like and fading to the left.
Sofie looking to play that low penetrating driver that you mentioned, but catching a early tree right at the late end of the gap. She'll get a kick off to the right side fairway. Lykke overturns and finds one of those last final guardian trees. We see her just left with a short upshot, potentially jump putt range for her. And Anniken hitting this gap cleanly now. She'll look to have this fade towards the end. And as you mentioned, using the backstop of that hill to dig and settle quite quickly. We see Lykke up first on the upshot.
Yeah, possibly even giving it a bit of a run here, as she does. The green on this hole is for some reason surprisingly slow. Even though the grass is not super tall, it is super thick. So as you can see, Sofie running it with some good pace and the disc just completely stopping once it hits the ground.
It's always fun to have Sofie join us on the coverage. She has a really aggressive mindset, always attacking the basket on the fairway and the green. She's always giving it a bid. And Rachel there, just a little bit left side of the chains, faded early. She's left with a tester coming back now. And she finds that one. Great focus. She secures her par.
Yeah, that was a very...
Still 1 under for the round.
Yeah, solid score and a very aggressive effort that was from what looked like about 10 meters. You can see the OB on the right side of the basket really coming into play, but Rachel almost reaching it with the missed putt there. But a good par cleanup. As Lykke and Anniken also got their pars, respectively. and Sofie as well. So that's a par frame for the card. This is another hole that you might want to have a look at birdie, but with the difficult gap, you are pretty much fine with par.
Hey Jonathan, catch. Huh?
Warning, low oxygen. Warning, low oxygen.
Jonathan, we're getting an anomalous critical failure on your suit. Could you please confirm status?
Low oxygen.
Sorry man.
Warning, low oxygen.
Moving on to hole 14, 96 meters. First off the tee you have to hit this slightly tight gap. It's not very tight, but just enough to make you uncomfortable about hitting it. Then you have to navigate through this sloping fairway, sloping right to left, all the way to the basket. That is actually perched up on this little bit of a mount that is sloping very hard from behind the basket. So if you go at all long or if you're at all left, you're likely to be sliding towards the water that you have both in front and on the back of the basket. The common play to keep it slightly right and hopefully not hit those trees that Rachel hit, but does stay safe there. That's a good break to not go into the pond of the trees.
This is, I believe, the berry from Sofie. Just contending to the base of those trees there.
Yeah, it looks like she was going with more of the safe shot, just trying to hang it out right and not really challenge the water at all. This has a tough looking angle. Hopefully it does not cut roll to the water, as it doesn't. Lykke will also have a good look for the par there. This is a very difficult hole. You have to be insanely precise if you want to have a look for the birdie here. But looks like Anniken is going for it aggressively. Very good shot and insane result. That should be just outside the bullseye there. Really utilizing that left hand fading shot towards the hillside.
She is very much within the bullseye, actually, as you see the benefit for her, just how scary this putt is remaining for a lot of these players. Lykke sits it down just a little bit short to not bring that danger into play whatsoever, and Rachel as well. Anniken leading on that left-handed backhand. Played over OB on the water the majority of the flight, so a great trust and command of her discs, as we'll see what likes to be 3 pars and hopefully a birdie.
Yeah, that's good play from the card. Really difficult hole to birdie with the right-hand backhand. As we saw, 3 shots. Quite well short of the basket, but very impressive stuff from Anniken, really utilizing that left arm. And this is one of those holes that you can really take advantage from pretty much whole of the field, as she does tap in that great birdie here. Alright, hole 15, 106 meters, slightly downhill, playing a little bit shorter than that, maybe around 95. You're going through over this beautiful dark pond, hopefully flying well over it, either hitting into this hillside or if you're playing more aggressive, trying to go over that bush that you see on the right side of the green, on the screen, excuse me. Another very slopey green on the right side of the basket. So if you land right off the basket, you're likely to be sliding / rolling down the hill. Also, very important to note that with the putts, if you're on the left side of the basket, which is common on this hole, you have a scary putt left. As Anniken skips it almost to the basket, but really rolling down that steep right side of the green there.
What a line. It looked really nice from her hand. She flipped it up to flat, played the left side, although the very parallel flight to the ground really encouraging some skips. You see Rachel using some height there and then not finding a skip on that faster green. She digs in the edge, but she'll be left with a longer putt towards that drop off. Sofie here looking to shape the Anheuser turnover, not quite getting the spin or release angle correct. She pushes forwards, I think. Still a scramble for 3 for her. And Lykke now. She had a great front nine, has slowed down a little bit on this back nine. She'll be looking to pick this one up. Beautiful turnover flight, flattens it out. She slides up to within range, although we'll see if she opts to take that risk and run the putt.
Yeah, it's certainly a scary putt from there. Even though we're not looking directly towards the slope, it is still quite tough. As Anniken has actually rolled all the way down the hill, that's quite unfortunate. Her shot really looked good from the tee. Just a little bit right, but that's a good scramble shot there, getting just to 5 meters.
Not much progress out of the woods. Sofie leaving herself with a long putt, but she gives it a chance, settles it down nicely. She'll be frustrated with that slightly unforced error, but 15, she will not be the only one taking a 3 or more.
Yeah, it's certainly not an easy birdie, especially with the hard sloping green, as we're not going to see birdies on this hole. Hopefully Anniken can make it from 5 meters here. As she does, just barely, catching on the far left side of the latitude basket. These baskets are actually known for catching very well, even from far right and far left, since the chains are a little bit looser than on a regular basket. So, good save there, and unfortunately, Sofie having to take that lone bogey on this hole as the other players take all pars.
The elusive birdie not yet found by the feature card. We'll move on to hole 16.
Hole 16, another just insanely beautiful long par 5, 231 meters. First playing uphill with the OB the whole way on the right side, as we move on to this wider part of the fairway that you would really like to get your second shot into. After that, the fairway is getting much thinner as far as OB lines, getting closer on the left and right side. With the approach, you want to land slightly right of the basket, because as you can see on the left side of the basket, it is once again a huge slope of sloping towards OB that is actually inside the circle on the left side. So very long hole, important to stay in the middle of the fairway, and with the approach, control that speed and land a little bit right.
And some great use of the very tumultuous land here, both the fairways and the greens, really thoughtfully shaped and placed. As we see Anniken there fighting her way up the hill, she settles it.
Yeah, that was a very good shot there in the middle of the fairway and good distance off the tee. As Rachel is looking to do the same, kind of fading out left. That rocky part of the fairway is very bad for footing, but fortunately she rolls off into the grassy part.
Lykke getting a nice nose-up hyzer release angle, but turns it over straight the whole way for a long pushing flight. She comes up just towards the flattened part of that hill. Might have an uphill walk-up remaining. As we see Sofie here playing a little bit more with the width, turning one over on the right side of the fairway, fading back towards the middle. That is a fantastic spot and some good controlled power there.
Yeah, that's a good set of drives from the group there. Nobody contesting with the OB, and from here, it's all about getting that comfortable distance, progressing towards the middle of the fairway. You want to be on top of this hill that Lykke is actually, she's in a good position there, looking down at the basket. But you want to get decent distance out of this shot while still remaining in the middle of the fairway, as Sofie hits this lone guardian tree in the middle.
Anniken leaning on her forehand that she's shown to be comfortable with, gets a good flare up the hill, will position herself for a third shot nicely, as we see Rachel opting for the forehand as well, goes nice and wide with the overstable high-speed driver, trusting the hillside to give her a little extra distance, and she gets a lot of extra distance. Look at this thing go.
Wow, that was a very good roll there, making that approach so much shorter, which is very important on this precise green. She only has about, I'd say, 60 to 50 meters left.
Sofie with the shot there. Yeah, these par 5s really testing the consistency of players. You know, a par 3 would require ideally 1 good drive and 1 good putt. Par 4s, 2 good drives, 1 good putt. You see where I'm going with this. The par 5s needing 3 good drives and a good putt to birdie really tests the consistency. And a green flag there as that one battles the OB left.
Yeah, very true, Connor. And especially since this fairway is quite wide, you don't need anything incredible with the first, especially with the first 2 shots. Even though this third shot needs to be very precise in order for you to have a good look at the basket. But just stay in the middle, and from here, all about speed control and putting it to the right of the basket. And perfectly showcased there from Sofie, although she's kind of testing the slope there, but I believe she did stay on top.
Looks like she had a good slowdown towards the end of the flight. Rachel going with a very overstable, almost Spikeiser release, although low to the ground to mitigate that distance using the stability to ensure she doesn't go long. And Lykke there with a nice bid. Another one good to see settle soft. Anything that hyzers out too high could find trouble. Anniken with another stressful putt. And she too sits her disc down. A tentative bid, understandably, from there.
Yeah, certainly understandably. As you can see, it is absolutely just dropping off behind the basket from the angle she was putting from. As we see Sofie making that decent par on this hole, and Rachel, unfortunately, too far right on the chains, even on these latitude baskets that catch really well on the right side. That's an unfortunate miss there, but still gets the par, which is it's a decent score on this hole.
Yeah, I'd say very commendable to still salvage par with a short missed putt. Shows just how well she threw the disc on this hole. Her only small error on the green, but really mastered the fairways for Rachel there, as we see a par frame on 16 for our feature card. 2 holes left in our first round.
Yeah, as we move on to hole 17, another just absolutely beautiful hole. This time a par 3, 115 meters. Severely downhill, playing closer to 95 or even 90 meters. You can see the OB is just on the left side of this small river that you see on the right side of the green, going all along the fairway. Also OB left, you see the line on left right here. Very precise hole. You want to hang something slightly right of the basket with a good fade, and hopefully fade left before you go too far. If you miss this island, it's an island hole, you have to go to the drop zone that is about 70 meters away. And Anniken obviously with the left hand having to turn something over and hold, as she has the perfect angle control there. Just a little bit short, but a great shot there.
Yeah, an absolute laser beam. If that was just a few centimeters higher, I think getting the full distance straight to the pin. Great angle control. We see Rachel here getting one more out that right side. A little bit less stable of a disc, and she does not fade back towards inbounds. She will be playing from that drop zone, it looks like.
Yeah, very unfortunate, since the drop zone is, even though it is only 70 meters away with the OB really close to the green, it's not an easy approach, as Lykke just barely gets over the OB river there, and that's a good result there. I'm sure her heart was pumping a little bit faster than usual there, as Sofie has a lot of speed and turn on the disc. Unfortunately, even though she's only 5 meters away, OBN has to get back to this drop zone with Rachel.
I like the hyzer there. Although she had been OB once on the right side, she did not let that slide into her thoughts, really trusting the overstability out over that same OB. She found herself off the tee and swings it back in nicely. So you see Anniken there and Lykke.
Good angle to run the putt from, since the OB is not as close from this angle. Just hitting it low, unfortunately. That would have been a great birdie there. As Sofie makes the bogey there after the, well, not an errant, but slightly upsetting approach from the drop zone, making it from far edge of circle 1 there. Good bogey save.
Great putt from Sofie as we see Rachel collect her bogey as well, also playing from the drop zone. I think the 4 is kind of the best case scenario if you do find yourself at the drop zone, everything after the tee shot really lending itself to the upshot, and then hopefully a short tap in, as we will see 2 pars and 2 bogeys on 17. Might look like a simple hole, but it is nothing too easy. Still very tricky, like every hole here.
Yeah, very true. It's a demanding course and requires a lot of precision, especially on the angle controls side of things. As we move on to hole 18. Almost an iconic hole, I would say, 150 meters. First, you're trying to get a lot of distance off the first shot, hopefully trying to get as close as possible to this far OB of the so-called island fairway. And then there's this patch of OB, and with your approach you have to land inside the rocks on this island green. If you do not come to rest inside the rocks, you will have to continue from the fairway, and you're not allowed to go to the green before you land inside of there and stay there.
And the sand inside the green playing as hazard?
Yes, that's a very good point. The sand inside the green is hazard. So very difficult approach there, even though the drive is pretty simple, as we saw Anniken making easy work of that drive.
Wow, what an edge there that cut on, really shaping against that hill, pushing back into a full spiral, fighting all the way forwards to back, and then a final push once again forwards. We see Lykke there in a fine position to attack. Rachel here opting for the placement shot, leaning on that power forehand that she's been shown to have, and great distance there for a one-angle shot, well positioned as well.
Yeah, that looked very easy and very consistent shot to go with the forehand hyzer. Really up to these players whether they want to go for the green from there, or rather still lay up to the far part of the fairway. Sofie getting so much distance. Actually, sorry, I thought she was flying past all the discs, but in the middle of the fairway there, decent distance, and Lykke going for the green, but just fading out way early, and she will have to continue from the fairway side on the far edge of the fairway.
Sofie now. We saw her hit a good drive, trying to end out on a strong note here. She gets this one into the green, slides it on up. Really nice shot and a great control of the height there to beat the wall and then settle softly. Anniken, given the has the ability here to just drop the spike hyzer in, and unfortunately it lands in the island but skips out. She will also find herself still on the fairway side.
Yeah, it's a very fast green here if you're coming in with the hyzer angle. It's often that you see your disc skipping, as Rachel left her approach a little bit left and short. From here it's a pretty simple shot, yet still very touchy. Only about 30 meters left, but the fast green and the slope, once again the slope behind the basket and on the left side of the basket, making this approach just a little bit more difficult.
Beautiful property with a great use of some natural geography. We see Anniken there getting her way to the island, fires a little bit long, and will be putting a little bit back towards those sand traps now, although going uphill, not likely to be in her head too much. She gives it a bit just a tad short here on 18. And Sofie now sticks the island and sticks the putt as she ends her round with a birdie to match an even par. Nice end from Sofie there, and a great round put together.
Yeah, for sure, and even par is just solid for the first round. You know, you're not really losing any ground there to the field, as we saw Rachel also ending her par at even par. Anniken, unfortunately, having a difficult round there, +7. I'm sure she's really disappointed with that, and Lykke just behind the two other players at +1.
Sofie, Björlycke matching Rachel at even. We see where that leaves them. A sole leader, Silva Saarinen, battling to 3 under. A great scorching hot start to give herself a 3-stroke cushion over 3 players tied in second at even, Sofie, Jenny, and Rachel, there you see your lead card for round 2. We appreciate you joining us here today. We hope you enjoyed this FPO coverage. Make sure to do all the good stuff to support us on the channel. And we'll catch you on round 2. Elias, a pleasure.
Thank you, Connor, and see you guys in round 2.